Hello one and all, welcome to another beginner Rise of Kingdoms video. This one is again sponsored by the creators of Rise of Kingdoms, so thanks very much to them. If you're interested in downloading and trying the game for the first time or coming back, feel free to click my referral link down below in the description. Right, today we've done the first hour of Rise of Kingdoms, so you've done that, what next? I think it's time to look at commanders. So let's look at the best commanders and why commanders are important for early game in Rise of Kingdoms. So if you're new to Rise of Kingdoms and you've seen all these commander tier lists released, you'll no doubt be thinking, oh, brilliant, I can't wait to fight with Nevsky, I can't wait to fight with Huo, Zhuge Liang, oh, there's a new Ragnar Prime. Yeah, you haven't got any of those. To begin with, at the beginning of the game, your commander choice is very limited. That is because all these great commanders are released late game. They're released about 3/4 of a year now into the game. It used to be later, they used to be drip fed in, but now, once you're about 3/4 of the way in the game, in the year, not the game never ends, you'll get access to all these Season of Conquest commanders, as we call them. Until then, you've got to make do. And you've got to find a way of using the best commanders available to you without messing up your future commander investments. And we'll get into that in a second. So this video is about fighting commanders. We're not going to talk about the gathering commanders. Guess who's good for that? It's the commanders with gathering talent. We're not going to deal with the commanders who are good at barb killing. Guess who's good for that? It's the commanders with the peacekeeping talent. We're going to talk about KVK1 specifically, and we're going to focus on the commanders available to you, whether that's legendary or epic. I should probably mention at the outset that I have done a KVK1 tier list video. I can't remember if it's tier list or commander pairings. I'm going to put a link to that in the end screen. So if you're interested in finding out more and perhaps a more structured setting, please check out that video. To begin with, here are the commanders I've got available to me. Let's be honest, it's very rare you see a VIP 0 account, so it's quite nice. You can see this account maybe hasn't had the love and care it deserves since I created it. Hey-ho. So these are the commanders I've got available to me. These are the ones I can recruit. You will notice, if you compare it to other accounts on the game and you're not too familiar with it, there aren't many. There aren't many you can recruit here. That's because they are all locked. Because as of yet, they have not been released. The KVK2 commanders, the Season of Conquest commanders are still figments of my knowledgeable imagination. So we're going to focus firstly on the legendary commanders available to you at this stage. And I'm just going to give a very, very quick précis of whether they're good or bad. We can delve into it a bit more in a minute. Let's use Minamoto separately because he's a paid for commander. Anyway, let's go. Chow, Cao Cao. All right. Minamoto, excellent KVK1. Should stress these ratings are all for KVK1. Minamoto, excellent but expensive. Richard, excellent but useless later on. Martel, excellent. YSG, the best. El Cid, I hate him so much, but he's alright for KVK1, but I hate him. Caesar, useless. Frederick, useless. Barcher, who is a paid-for commander, useless. Mehmed, kinda bad but good later on. Ethelflaed, free, good. Cleopatra, irrelevant. Seondak, irrelevant. Mulan, irrelevant for KVK1. Ishida, irrelevant for KVK1. Ragnar, bad. Thutmose, good. Pyrrhus, quite good. There we go. That's a very quick introduction to the gold key commanders as they are. Or I suppose they're not all gold key. We've got Richard and we've got YSG who come from the wheel. And I think the ones we should be focusing on here, in my esteemed opinion, is, well, are you going to pay to max Minamoto is the key thing. The only way you can get his heads is through buying your VIP packages. I will show you, if you're new to the game, exactly how that works. So I think it's VIP 10. No, VIP 9, here we go. If I buy the VIP 9 thing, I get 270 Minamoto heads. This one I get 150, etc, etc. If you buy every VIP chest up to VIP 9, you will max Minamoto. A few £100. So, you've got to, can you afford to spend a few £100 on doing so? If so, you'll probably have the best commander for KVK1. He's still very good in KVK2. Minamoto just slays KVK1. He's brilliant. He falls off late game. It falls off quite markedly. You won't use him late game. You might transition from using him into using other people, but you just won't use him when you're really well set up. But for the beginning of the game, excellent. Martel, he's not terrible late game. You can use him. KVK1 really is excellent. He's the tankiest commander there is. The question is, who's better out of Martel and Richard? They both do a very similar role. They're both infantry commanders who are specialists in defense. In fact, they're specialists in exactly the same thing. You would never garrison with Richard. He's terrible at that, despite his skill there. Martel is an excellent garrison in KVK1 and 2. If you're like, garrisons are usually the biggest players in the kingdom. So if you're a big player, you'll definitely want him. If you're not a big player and you're just going to be field fighting with him, yeah, he's really good. But the question is it worth spending heads on him? And I say heads, these are the legendary commander sculptures, the gold heads as we colloquially call them. They are worth their weight in gold, literally. The reason they're so good is you can spend one today on Martel, which will give you a good KVK1 advantage, or you can spend one in a year's time on Zhuge Liang, which means you'll get the best commander in the game. You'll get a head towards the best commander in the game. There's no differential between them. One head is one head, whether it goes in Cao Cao, whether it goes in Zhuge Liang. So spending gold heads now does have the effect of meaning you can't spend on better commanders later. Anyway, these two are the best inf commanders early game. Pyrrhus is good, not quite at their level. Well, isn't at their level, full stop. YSG is the best KVK1 commander. There's a big debate whether or not you want YSG as an early game investment, because 700 heads, you have to max him if you want him, because this expertise of the circular damage is excellent and it's such a big upgrade on the fan. So basically you have to ask yourself, will I max YSG? I've maxed him on every single account. Yeah, I kind of regret it sometimes, but usually I still use him for barb killing at the end of the game. But for the purpose of talking about beginner investments, not sure I'd recommend it. He's excellent early game. You'll get loads of kills with him, but he will fall off late game. All these commanders will fall off late game. The idea is to probably use as few gold sculptures as possible. So from a broad, I'm a beginner, who should I look at here? I'd look at Richard, I'd look at Martel, I'd look at YSG. If you're going to spend some money, I'd look at Minamoto. Cao Cao's okay, El Cid is okay, Thutmose is really good, Pyrrhus is pretty good, ignore the rest of them. But the gold commanders, they're a bit of a different breed, because we know you have to use gold commander heads for them, so they're a bit of a rarity, these gold commander heads, to put it mildly. You want to save as many as possible, which means the most important commanders, in my opinion, for KVK1 are the epic commanders. You know, we can upgrade here with the gold commanders. They tend to be better, but not always. Let's go through the epic commanders, because that's really where KVK1 commander choosing is at a prime. So here we go. This is where the bulk of your time and effort should be spent on the KVK1 commanders, in my opinion. The beauty of a KVK1 commander, if we try and level up his skill, we use, these epic commander sculptures. And you know what epic commander sculptures can't be used towards? Gold commanders, which means it's kind of free to use them. Apologies, I just click off there. There's no real downside, in my opinion, to using them. As you play the game more and more, you will have more of these purple heads than you can bear to ever consider using. I mean, just to prove that point, blink of an eye. This is my free-to-play account. About 500 days into the game, I think. I have all the purple commanders maxed, aside from a couple of them. Let's try and max these. And I have 2,177 of these sculptures. I have this many actual Scipio Africanus sculptures towards it. Basically, my point is, just treat these purple sculptures as if they don't matter. You will have more than enough to play with in the game. You have to prioritize a bit for KVK1, but don't worry about spending them. They are nothing like gold sculptures. Okay, we're back. So now we've established that the purple commander heads are not worthless, because early game you will want them. You want to level up these commanders, and you'll probably get 2 or 3 done for KVK1. They are, from the long term, an almost inexhaustible supply thereof, so don't worry about spending them. Instead, let's focus on who's actually good enough to spend them on. These are the epic commanders who aren't integration. Integration just means they are good at gathering, effectively, or basically integration is irrelevant. Ignore everyone integration aside. Where are they? Where are they? Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc. So she's not like, she looks like a gathering commander, and in many ways she is a gathering commander. She does have this specific skill, though, which basically, she's great in a ball of fighting. She makes everyone nearby a lot better. There is a lot of merit in fighting with Joan as your secondary commander. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily if you're only fighting 1 or 2 marches, but if you've got 5 marches going out there and you fancy doing that, in itself, I wouldn't recommend that. Joan is a fine member to have. As long as you've got one Joan in a murder ball, whether it's yours or one of your allies, you should be laughing. So Joan is the only integration commander we'd even spend time looking at for this, but She's very good in Canyon Clash, but on the battlefield, good. Maybe not the best. We'll get rid of integration. Who have we got left? Well, we have the best. Sun Tzu, in my opinion, is the best epic commander still. There's not much competition, I don't really think. Sun Tzu is brilliant at what he does. He's a fantastic infantry commander. He will end up doing, once you've got his expertise, 800 damage factor to 5 enemy troops in a fan. Not huge when we compare to the other gold commanders, especially the later games ones, but anything AoE in this game gives you a lot of kill points. That one's irrelevant because you don't want to garrison with him. You don't want to garrison. If your city's getting attacked in KVK1, you've got problems. 10% extra infantry health, 10% damage reduction, and the big one, 20% extra skill damage. So you can pair Sun Tzu with Bjorn Ironside, which is very recommended. This is perhaps the go-to infantry pair for KVK1. You can go a little bit cross troop, and you can pair him with YSG, who also has a big old skill damage buff. So you'd be getting 70% more skill damage. YSG doing tons of damage here. So Sun Tzu YSG is something you'll see a lot of. If we're going to stick to the epic commanders, though, I would say Sun Tzu and Bjorn Ironside are the two infantry commanders you really want to focus on. The other infantry commanders we've got, usually, he's not terrible, but he's not very good, to be honest. And I think that's it, right? Oh, yeah, we've got Pericles. Pericles, yeah, he's okay. He's okay. Let's just both Pericles and hugely Mundiuk are okay, but I'm talking about who we want to favourite, and we want to favourite Sun Tzu for sure, and we want to make our second favourite Bjorn Ironside. They're the two we want to focus on if we are playing infantry. If, however, we are not playing infantry, we'll get rid of these. Then let's consider we're playing cavalry. Problem with playing cavalry in the early game of KVK1 is you're gonna want Minamoto. The problem with Minamoto, as we've established, expensive. Chow Chow, or Sao Sao, I'm bad at pronunciation, is a decent second choice, but he is nowhere near as good as Minamoto. What I really like running in KVK1, if you're running cavalry, is Baibars, who is your best option by a mile. He does 750 direct damage to 3 enemy troops in a fan, gives a good march speed reduction, which is excellent. Nice cavalry attack bonus. Little bonuses here, and he's got a tiny healing factor and a march speed bonus when you leave battle. Not great, but there's not much to compare him with. When you get his expertise, 1,000 direct damage is pretty good. I like pairing Baibars not with Belisarius, who is the other cavalry commander we'll get to in a sec, and certainly not with any of these. I like pairing him with Ethelfled. You will get Ethelfled for free from the expedition. You'll probably get a 5511 in KVK1 unless you're going mad on the expedition, and that's plenty good enough. You're getting a nice little bonus when you're using Baibars and Ethelfled together. You're making the opponent's cavalry march speed and all of the march speed really slow when you're using them together, so they can't really escape from you. There's nice little damage here, good counterattack. These two aren't particularly relevant, but the first two abilities are very strong, to be honest. I would use Baibars as the primary, and I would focus on using Baibars and Ethelfled as your cavalry march, unless you have Big Boy Minamoto, in which case just go for Big Boy Minamoto. I mean, I don't know where he's gone here. There's no shame to having Minamoto. He's excellent. You just have to find him. Here we are. Minamoto will be your best option if you haven't bought him and you're not going to buy him. Let's say you need him at 5511 to really make a difference. If you haven't got that, I'd go for Baibars and Ethelfled. I would not invest gold sculptures in Cao Cao, as it's not an investment that will pay dividends in the future. Right, so that's the cavalry side of things done, as I get rid of engineering. I would say Belisarius is a bit of a niche case. Belisarius is really bad with Baibars, in my opinion. He's very good at one thing and one thing only. But he's also good at barbarian killing. He's good at hunting farmers. If that's something you're interested in, yeah, Belisarius is the guy for you. He's really quick. The enemy can't catch him once they realise what you're doing. If you're happy to go and kill farmers all day, you're going to want to use Belisarius. If you're not happy to do that and you'd rather focus on combat, I think Baibars is notably better. Let's go out of the cavalry. So now we go to archers. I just don't know why it's worked like this, because we're missing out several archers. I mean, there's Herman. Good old visual bug in the game. Let's go back in. I've probably missed out some cavalry for that reason as well. Good old ROK. Anyway, the epics. Let's just go through all the epics and not to get them low. So who have I missed out on the cavalry front? Pelagius. He's no lot. Don't use Pelagius. I don't like Pelagius. I think there's one more. Is there? Okay, so I'd say in terms of the purple epics for cavalry, we go Baibars, preferably with Ethelfled, then Belisarius, then Pelagius. I really don't like Pelagius. I don't think he's very good at all. Archers are interesting. I prefer archers. Firstly, ignore Lohar, ignore Boudica. They are just peacekeeping commanders. Do not fight with them in the field. They will get absolutely slaughtered. Reason for that, they're good against barbarians, bad against other players. Archers. So you can go with Kusunogi. I think Kusunogi is probably the best epic archer. He is really quite good. Doesn't do a ton of damage, but does a lot of good things. Got a nice little additional damage factor. Dispels bad effects. It makes your archers stronger. Nice little additional damage factor here. Nice little 15%, 5% little bonus to these two. Yeah, Kusunogi is a good epic archer. So is Hermann. I would say Kusunogi is a little better. Hermann makes your archers quicker, does a little bit more damage, but it's just to one troop. Silences as well, which is very useful. The garrison's kind of irrelevant, and normal damage isn't either. I think it's a nice little damage factor, 1150. Hermann's probably just behind Kusunogi when it comes to your KVK1 archers. I used to really like Imhotep. Imhotep's good in Canyon, but he's kind of used battlefield. He's a nice little buffing commander, but because he does, well, no damage by himself, his efficacy is kind of useless unless you're using 5 marches. The other one who's excellent, I would strongly recommend, is Kira. She is the best epic archer commander by a mile, and you can't access her for a long time because you can only get her thoroughly. Thanks, ROK. Genius idea, that. I think that's poor design, I will say, but yeah, sadly you have to ignore Kira. So epic archers, I would say best one is Kusunogi. Then we've got Hermann. Then we've got Imhotep, sadly, and Kira is at the side. Excellent, but sadly unusable due to specific to the game. The other commanders, we've got Scipio. So these are the guys you can use as a secondary commander to you've got. You can use a Scipio, you can use an Osman. They're kind of a bit like the budget versions of Mehmed II. You use them as a secondary commander if you haven't really got anyone to pair them with, to pair the primary with. For instance, you Hermann and Osman. I wouldn't recommend it. I would say for the most part, just pretend Osman and Scipio Africanus do not exist. Just fight. If you're going with infantry, fight with Sun and Bjorn. If you're going with cavalry, fight with Baibars Ethel. If you're going with archers, and this is where we go a bit into backtracking, probably fight with Kusunogi. However, archers are the one exception I would make to the epic rule. I would say early game archers, like Thutmose is a really, really good KVK1 and 2 commander. He will fall off massively after KVK2, but the best KVK1 march is probably Thutmose YSG. You viably use that, you're going to have to put gold heads into Thutmose, and you're going to have to spend gems on the YSG wheel and put gold heads into him. Depends how much you're planning to spend, both in terms of time and money on the game. If the answer's a lot, Thutmose YSG is your answer. If the answer's not a lot, just go with 2 of the epic archers. I would go with Kusunogi and Hermann, personally. We should probably say which is better, though, out of all these things. What troop type is better? I think KVK1, it's not even close. The infantry are the best commanders. You've got the best legendaries, the best breadth of legendaries anyway in Richard Martel. You've got the best epics in Sun Tzu and Bjorn. Unless you're doing the game like doing a challenge or make it hard for yourself, or you desperately don't want to be infantry this playthrough, I would say always go for infantry in KVK1. You've also got the benefit of there's the KVK shop where you can buy patterns for just infantry. So you get really good infantry equipment and nothing for the other troop types. It is very much favoured, in favour of infantry early game. And I would recommend you take advantage of that. So this is a nice little introduction, I like to think, to the KVK1 commander. Stay away from gold if you can. Play the long game is my advice. Save your gold heads for the later excellent commanders. You've seen all the tier lists. I'd say just focus on infantry. My advice would be Sun Tzu, Bjorn, Baibars, Ethel, and maybe an Archer March if you're looking to do it. That is how I would like to end this video, explaining that the early game, it doesn't get much coverage when it comes to tier list of videos. I'm going to put my tier list in the end screen, so check out for that if you want to see more. This is how I view KVK1 commanders. I focus on epics because it's the only time you get to use them and means you can save your gold heads for later. Your trades won't be as good, but they'll be a lot better later when you've got Zhuge Liang and Nevsky Max. I hope you enjoy smashing people in KVK1, and I will end the video there. Thanks again to ROK for sponsoring this. Please feel free to click on my link down below to get yourself, get yourself in the game if you're planning on doing so. It's still a great game. I still enjoy it. Till next time, my friends. Next time. Bad ending.